Well, welcome everybody, and a special welcome to Queensland's Disability Minister, who today has come along to be an official launcher of Discovery at Paradise Island, Dyslexia font version. And I really would like to welcome Craig Crawford here today.
G'day, Sharon. Great to be here with you, and great to see everyone else here tuning into this launch of yours as well.
Thank you. And I guess this book has come about over a long period of time, and the fact that it has been printed before in a Lucida handwriting font, and I will talk a little bit more about that later, really sort of explains as to why this is so important, as it gives access to so many people who have dyslexia and have major difficulties in reading.
And it's something, this is something I've been quite interested in when I read your notes leading up to this, because Sharon and I have been having a bit of a talk about this moment now for a few weeks. And I was, I'll be open and honest, I wasn't even aware that there was a dyslexia font. In reading some of the notes from Sharon and doing a bit of my own research, I was actually, I guess I was blown away. And I can understand behind the scenes the significant amount of work that you've had to do as an author to upgrade the text, the font, the boldness, everything like that in that book. And to be able to re-release it now, a very successful book re-released now with Dyslexia font, I think is fantastic. And I hope we can see more of it.
Thank you for that, Craig. It really was quite eye-opening for me, really, to have done this and thought that I had a lot of answers. I'd done it in a very clear font that had, you know, almost like handwriting that would work well for people, and that I'd put it on a paper that wasn't glary, and I had all of the different things, so I thought. And then research over the last probably 5 years into the open dyslexic fonts has really explored a lot of things that work for people who have dyslexia. It's not a fix-all for everybody. I love having a set of these books and going into a classroom and having some of the original older fonts, and then asking people which they preferred, and seeing what teachers observed and what and how people actually linked with the story and with the text and what worked best for them.
So speaking of the story, and like obviously I'm delighted to be part of the launch or the relaunch. For those people that have not heard the story or have not read the book, because I believe it's about, what, 10 years old now?
Yeah.
You want to just run through briefly, just actually the storyline, so that I guess this is an opportunity to entice would-be readers to get into it.
Okay, that's an excellent idea, because a lot of people are looking for a story that actually is able to be read by somebody of any age group. And this is one of the only Australian children's books written that explores disability in the family. It also looks at cultural identity and the Australian identity. And it's also a mystery with a mystery code that has to be solved through the actual story. And it is central. It's about Alexandria and Sarah go to Paradise Island, which essentially is set on a tropical island in far north Queensland. And they think it's going to be boring. Well, Sarah, Alexandria's friend, who goes along to the holiday with that family, thinks that they won't be able to do it really very much at all, because Alexandria's mum is in a wheelchair. The reality is they come across lots of different things. There's lots of things that they participate in the islands. There's a mystery code that they find, you know, on the beach. They actually look for pirates' treasure. They look for clues. And the whole book is like a discovery of all of those things that they see on the island. And it's also the discovery that Sarah has about the way that somebody in a wheelchair can still participate in all those different things in that space. And I tried, when I was writing this book, to actually use examples of what I did. and I actually based it on Hamilton Island, which is an area I love, and all of the area in the Whitsundays around Airlie Beach and the boats that go out from there that all have wheelchair access. And it was a real surprise to me when I went there and was able to do lots of the things. I don't do everything that's in this book, but it's a story where individuals can understand about disability. It's a story where people can actually learn about, I guess, a lot of things about cultural history. I love sea turtles, so I wove them into the story as well. And it really looks at literacy, numeracy, social intelligence, and links to the SOS syllabus, and tries to do a lot of stuff on code breaking as well. And I thought, if I have all of those things in the story, I need to make it accessible to everybody. And because it has been very successful, it has been chosen for the New South Wales school syllabus, and I've sold many in Queensland. But this new version aims to break down another barrier, and that's the barrier of actually reading the text and having the text that actually can be, I guess, taken into the mind through your eye in a clearer way, with the heavier, as you mentioned before, Craig, with the heavy font on the bottom. A lot more stability seems to be created on the page, and the sounds all go together. So we've got the phonics, and they can actually sound that out and put those things together and get the story. It works too for, I guess, people from second language backgrounds, and also probably older kids in school that want a book that's interesting, but they don't want a baby book, and they want something that's worthwhile. And I try to put a lot less text on the page and try to weave pictures in there, so there's an illustration to what's happening with words. So putting together the words in the dyslexia font.
Fantastic. And of course, you won a award for this. You got the first Disability Action Week award in Queensland.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
That was actually my foray into the work of disability, because even though I was not born with a disability, I sort of was a little bit attracted to it as I became worse. And by that, I mean, I would listen to some things, because before that, I never would even, I guess, admit that I had a disability. When it came to filling in a form or doing anything like that, if there was a thing written up there, do you have a disability? And you had to tick yes or no, I would just tick no, because I didn't acknowledge that. When I actually wrote this book, my dad actually put a nomination in, and never said anything and never thought anything more about it, because it was the first ever of these Disability Action Week awards, and it was a new thing to actually do. And when he actually got the phone call that I actually had won, and then when he came and told me, I was like, oh my goodness, how am I actually going to do any of that? It was very overwhelming and very exciting. And it was a real link to learning and accepting my own disability, but difference, and a celebration of that. And I loved the way that it was sort of awarded, and it made me change my mind about the way we could celebrate difference and all the differences that were in the room that day. And I guess this book was my way, really, of engaging within that community and that space. And it's sort of gone from there. The way that Queensland especially supports people who have differences and celebrates that, rather than it being, oh, it's a them and us. And I wanted this book to be inclusive of everybody. And I felt that by changing the font and the way that it was actually written would actually give that window of opportunity for people with dyslexia, and especially children with dyslexia in schools that didn't have that chance before, while exploring disability, while breaking down barriers, and while actually looking at different ways as a teacher to educate with multiple intelligences. And I guess, different formats. I do have a CD that is a spoken of the book. So if people have even more levels of difficulty with reading, they can listen and have the auditory, and then they can read the book with the dyslexia font. It's an open access font, so every person can access that, and it's free to access. I guess when you're doing your research, your ends, were you surprised by, I guess, the level of research that went into the background of this and why it's important?
Look, absolutely, and like you've just outlined, I think, not only a fantastic book but a fantastic journey, and something that I think that lots of people should get into. It just goes to show how much goes into putting something like this together, let alone doing it in the added layer of complexity of making it available for someone with dyslexia to be able to read. And I think that's fantastic. I got two final questions that I'll roll into one for you, Sharon. So
Okay.
my notes here tell me that you're a registered teacher and you're happy to go into schools and participate in author visits and those sorts of things. So how do people go about getting in touch with you about that? And the second one is, the most important one is, for people that are watching, right, I want to get a handle, I want to get a copy of this book. How do they do it?
Well, gosh, two very complex questions, but I guess the first one. Now, did you want to? What was the first one again, Greg?
School author
visits.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Well, through the website, I think the website is the best point of contact to start with. And I also do have phone details, email details, etc., because those school visits make this come alive. That's what's made this book come alive for me. I have to say that in all the work that I do, the stories that kids tell me about what they've thought about the book, how they've engaged with the book, how teachers have used the book. I have had, just in the last year, a lot of teachers who got hold of the book. I don't know where they heard about it and now wanting to know more about the dyslexia font, because I shared those stories with them and the fact that it was upcoming and being launched. They were, how do we engage more with this and with you? So I'm actually going to be doing, as well as those school visits, some, I guess, step by step, kids read the story, then they link back with me. And that is really valuable, because they don't only think about the story that's in the words, they then link with me as an author who has a disability. And some of the questions that they actually have are pretty amazing. It really goes to show they have looked at disability and thought about it. This is 4, 5, and 6-year-olds, one particular group that I have been working with. Questions like, did you actually write this yourself? How did you do it? Did you write it with a pen and paper, or did someone else type it for you? They were asking questions like that. And when I've actually either been on Zoom or gone into schools, they want a demonstration in front of the camera, how I actually can do it. So I have to have some whiteboard markers and laminated pages to see that I actually can write. And they have certain things that they want me to write. And I think that is really special, because it really shows the engagement between that and the book. I did do a kit that does go out into schools too, about a day in the life of myself. And that actually has a DVD with also pictures that go with it, how I do things in my day, how I go to the shower, how I clean my teeth, everything like that. And the purpose of this story is how kids really do look at deeper level. My picture of me cleaning my teeth on the still shot looks absolutely fine. When they go to the DVD, another whole story emerges. I get the questions of, it looks like you can clean your teeth, but why don't you turn the water off? Do you know that that is a really big waste environmentally? like, how old are these kids? They're like really, really aware. And they really don't let me off the hook if I say that, well, I guess I can't really do that easily myself, so I just leave it running. You could get someone else to turn it off and then turn it back on for you. So they know all about carers and they know all about learning. And I think that it really says something about the engagement of children and students and adults with text. And that's why this book, I think, to me, was so important that I actually reformatted it in a different font, a font that actually works for everybody, and a story that also shared a journey and a mystery and fun. It was a fun book, and it is a fun book. And that's the feedback that I get. So if you want to actually buy a copy of the book, you can go online just to the shop on the website at www.discoveringdisability.com.au. But if you're already watching this launch with Craig and I, you'll know the address already. But just go to the online shop or give me a ring or send me an email, and I can do many, many different things. You know, there's no reason why I can't. If you've got an issue within your schools, I can't link the DVD and the CD and the book all together. So you can really get a class set and get real learning, because the whole idea of this is to break down barriers. It's to get the information out there. And that's the way we'll create change and inclusion. And Craig, I have to really thank you, not just for being part of the launch of this book, but actually having the real desire to create change. And I see it every day in the work that you do. And I see it also in the fact that you know about this book. You have gone to the trouble of learning more about open dyslexia fonts. That is valuable to me as a person who did it, a person who lives disability, but as a Queenslander and an Australian who wants that change to happen.
Thanks very much, Sharon. And can I say, you know, you're an incredibly inspirational Queenslander yourself. Hopefully we'll see lots of families on those beaches in the Whitsundays, you know, seeing lots of kids living with disabilities up there, and people just breaking down those barriers because they've been inspired from reading your book. I really hope that you keep doing more. You know, you've got the right attitude towards this, and I really wish you the best in this launch and in many more to come.
Thank you so much, Minister. And I have really been very excited to have you on board with this, but also the fact that it's out there and people are now able to purchase it and hopefully will be benefited from the book.